At what moment did you realize you were dating an idiot? When she said, "Does the wind move windmills, or do windmills make the wind?" And this woman is now a registered nurse. She sounds very pretty freaking dumb. When she put a metal thermos in the microwave twice, the scorch mark down the side from when she'd put it in the first time wasn't enough to make her reconsider putting it in again. She also claimed the power outlet in my parents' house gave her laptop a virus. Most of the other comments here describe ignorance, which we may be able to blame on poor education. This is the first in the list to describe stupidity. The first time she put it in the microwave you could chalk it up to her not knowing any better, but the second time, you can teach the ignorant, but the stupid just will not learn. Disagree. Believing windmills create wind, on a planetary scale, no less, is straight up stupidity. When I was 17 years old I got my license and registered to be an organ donor, which is displayed on the front of the license. I showed my ex-boyfriend my license and he said, "Oh my god, what organ did you donate?" "My heart." "We're through. My heart to you." Thinking now maybe I should have given you the brain. My boyfriend and I got into a serious argument because he thought ducks were not birds, therefore could not lay eggs. Just don't bring up the platypus. Why? Is the platypus overly sensitive? It was a great movie. I didn't know Leonardo DiCaprio was retarded. How did he act normal in all his other movies? She has a point. Hey man, he finally got that freaking Oscar. She was persuaded that Notre Dame de Paris was built as a tourist attraction by Disney after the cartoon. The worst is that we are both French. I found it dorky at first, but that last sentence got me concerned. When she asked me is it the same sun in all 50 states? She's now a teacher. My science teacher in the 5th grade. It takes millions of years for light from the sun to reach Earth. I think my teacher was your ex, so it does take about 10 million years for photons to leave the core. When I used the phrase elephant in the room, and he got mad because he thought I was talking about his best friend. Were you alluding to his friend's obvious weight problem that no one was willing to address? No, just the fact he can't jump. We'll just play it by month. Sorry, play it by month. Yeah, you know, it's like playing it by year only shorter. Rigged. That was 16 years ago, and that young lady is currently cooking my 2-year-old breakfast right behind me. Or man, you took her in as a housemaid? You're a guardian angel. Poor girl would have never made it otherwise. Got himself a bang maid. We were watching Django, and during the winter training montage there is a moment where the camera pans over a herd of reindeer. At that moment my ex said something about how she thought it was weird that they would include reindeer in the movie because it kind of breaks the immersion. I was confused and asked what she meant by that. She went on to explain to me how reindeer weren't real animals and just make believe like characters in a fairy tale, aka Rudolph and the rest of Santa's reindeer. Unfortunately, this is actually very common. Well, in the myth, reindeer fly. Once you hear something with 4 legs is flying, most people think it's a myth, not a part myth with a grain of truth to it. This conversation actually happened. Meat is a protein, right? Beans are a protein, right? So what animal do beans come from? From the bumblebean. Bumblebean should have been my username, crap. Sometimes, when I'm driving, I get a little tired. So, I just close my eyes for 3-5 seconds, just to get some rest. I'm 100% serious that one of my ex-girlfriends actually said that. This is actually a recognized factor in a lot of fatigue-related crashes. I believe they are called micronaps. If you can easily get in touch with her, you might want to look up some of the literature and send it to her so she doesn't freaking kill herself. Micronaps are involuntary. You don't close your eyes. You're awake and tired, and then you wake up. At least that's my experience. He thought China was a continent and that Asia was a city. Millennia. She thought dinosaurs were made up for kids' movies. This was a senior in high school. I dated a girl that was 100% serious when she told me the devil put dinosaur bones in the ground to test our faith and that dinosaurs, were not real at all. Not too long ago I was in the car with my aunt and uncle, as well as their 12-year-old daughter, and my diabetic grandmother, only mentioning she's diabetic, because that comes into play later. Typically, grandma's the sweetest, most polite lady you'd ever meet, but catch her when her blood sugar is real low and her filter completely vanishes. So anyways, at some point someone brings up the idea of going to see a movie, and so my uncle told me to pull up listings to see what movies were playing. So as I'm going down the list, nothing looks too good. Then I see Jurassic World, and remember that I had been eagerly awaiting this new one to come out. The moment I bring it up, my aunt shoots me a death glare through the rearview mirror and my uncle instantly changes the conversation. At this point I'm very confused, thinking okay, maybe for some strange reason they both really despise the old Jurassic Park films. So after a minute or so of my uncle just rambling on about nothing, trying to change the conversation, I turn to my little cousin in the backseat with me and ask her if she had ever seen Jurassic Park. She starts talking no my parents don't, then out of nowhere, my grandma bursts out these two dip craps have her brainwashed into thinking dinosaurs never existed because it doesn't fit their bat crap crazy evangelical narrative. Everyone went silent for a few minutes while I'm sitting in the back trying my best not to burst out laughing. Then my aunt started getting on about her needing to check her blood sugar, and yeah, that was how I learned that there are actually real people out there who truly believe this crap. When I mentioned I had one of those Soviet fur hats my aunt gave me in the late 80s, she then asked, oh, were there Soviets alive in the 80s? I almost cried bitter Slav tears. It's called a Rashanka, and they are warm as frick. Translates to ear hat thing. Source, I'm Russian. He works in it. I was having problems with my MacBook. He told me to restart it as often as I could for 24 hours, to let the computer write one layer of code at a time. First number. Please, he had to be kidding. The worst part is that he has a legitimate job in it. He put on a movie and restarted my computer at least 100x while we were watching it and told me to try to remember to turn it off and back on as often as possible when he left. She laughs when you spell out abbreviations for her. Example. What is PC? Politically correct. Lol. I knew a girl would say lol instead of laughing. But she laughed while she said it. Like loholl. I wanted to throw her out a window. Was she too heavy? When she no joke thought she could cast a spell to bring a dead animal back to life. Whoop, let me guess. Wiccan? She had a spirit animal, and it was a wolf. Right on the first count. No spirit animal was ever mentioned. He didn't understand how crossing the street worked. My logic. Little man equals walk across. Big hand blinking equals finish your walk. Big hand equals don't walk. My ex's logic. Little man equals don't walk. Big hand blinking equals walk. Big hand equals finish your walk. When I saw it played out I thought he was trying to kill me. I hope he is still alive. Was he Middle Eastern? The US Army saw a vast decrease in civilian deaths at checkpoints in, I think, Iraq when they stopped making that hand signal, because while holding a hand up with your palm out means stop in the US/West, it means come this way in some Middle Eastern countries. He was born and raised in Arizona. I have no idea where he got this idea from. There were other things he did that were also idiotic, so it was just him being an idiot. I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. Dumbus. Married for 2 years, have child, very happy. Boo-hoo. I came here to laugh at idiots not feel things. She said she wanted to become Jewish. I asked her if she believed in God, because I was real damn sure she didn't, and she said no. I asked if she thought that would change. She said no. I asked why in the world then she thought converting to Judaism would be a good call. I feel like I would be a good Jewish mother, and I want to make matzah and stuff. Friend of mine dated a girl for a while who didn't want to be Christian anymore, so she was going to be Catholic instead. To be fair, I ran into this a lot growing up. Evangelicals would try to save me because they didn't think Catholics were Christians. They are taught some weird crap about what we believe. I had to constantly explain movies and plot lines and whatnot to my ex. When I started dating my wife, I automatically started explaining the movie we were watching out of habit, and she looked at me like I was a retard and explained that she got it and I could stop. My ex was also obsessed with sales. She would constantly buy crap we didn't need because it was on sale and we saved money. I tried to explain to her several times that buying things we didn't need, even on sale, was not a way to save money. It's a very common thing in regards to buying things on sale. Strange psychology behind it all. The worst I can imagine would be with perishable short life food. That is if you aren't on a tight budget, then in which case it's a no-brainer. Two of my friends are in a relationship and the guy is one of those lovable idiot types. His girlfriend realized what she was into when he told her during sex, "I've seen your boobs, but not your ears." How weird is that? That is weird. Boob ears are even weirder. She thought Alzheimer's disease was called old-timers disease. When I was a kid living in the DC suburbs, I thought the National Air and Space Museum was named after an astronaut named R in space. To be fair, I've never heard a local really pronounce the name out. Everybody kinda just goes in space. In an email to me, "I hate when we go to my perfectly safe neighborhood. I don't want to wind up like that Memento." We had just seen the film Memento. She also thought that all poor people, including me, were not well off because they made the choice to be poor. No other circumstances, just choice. Every single poor person. She came from money and was living off of that temporarily, as she had repeatedly failed the general knowledge exam to certify her as qualified to teach kindergarten. Memento. Mo problems. When he told me that dogs can't get sick, he must be confused. They can't look up. Don't forget that the gun behind the bar is real too. Not me, but a friend of mine told me this story. He started dating this girl who really didn't seem to understand his jokes and would sort of half laugh in order to kinda keep things going. At first, I asked him if maybe she just didn't think he was funny, and he said he thought of that, but it became really clear that she just did not get the jokes ever. One day they were on the phone making plans, and after finalizing them he said, "Cool beans." There's a silence on the other end of the phone followed by an apprehensive, what? He said, "Oh, haha, cool beans." She responds, "UHH, never heard that one before, heh, UHH, cool nachos, haha." It was then I think he realized that it just wasn't going to work. That made me laugh so hard, UHH, cool nachos, haha. When she told me how long our relationship would last, based on her intense study of astrology, we had sex one more time and that was it. The stars were liars. I dated one of those too. Maybe we are Eskimo brothers. He really thought he was going to be a successful author, but knew nothing about books. Example 1. There are certainly movies you know could never work as a book, like Fight Club. Example 2. Sees a long line of Ian Fleming novels at the bookstore. Oh my god, I can't believe they are making tie-in novels for the James Bond movies. Ugh. Philip K. Peenan Tolkien would really piss him off. And Agatha Christie. All those books, based on beautiful British movies. When he told me hot water bottles didn't exist anymore because central heating had been invented, maybe he meant hot water bottles as in those red rubber ones that you fill with hot water. They still exist, but they are certainly not as widely used as old movies would lead me to believe they used to be. Widely available here even now all year round, with or without cute fluffy covers. I think he just had a brain fart. I think this was in 98 or 99. My girlfriend at the time asked me to take her to FYE so she could get some new music. As she put it, she was tired of the black music and wanted some classic rock CDs. First CD she picks up is a Jimi Hendrix Greatest Hits. As I recall, the CD only had his name on the front and his picture on the back. I immediately start laughing, and she has no idea why I'm laughing either. So I ask her if she realizes that Jimmy is black, at which point she starts arguing with me that he's not. I slowly turn the CD over and show her what Jimmy looks like. She puts the CD down and says she's ready to go. We didn't make it too much longer after that. Also, rock and roll is black music, so is jazz. Pretty much all modern popular music styles have some basis in black music, pop, R&B, hip hop, rock and roll, etc. that they're actually dating you. He threw a crap through the college bathroom window. Literally. Caught it on a plate, took it outside, threw it into the girls' bathroom through an open window. He'd never done anything that insane before. He thought it was hilarious. Not even sure he realized that was the main reason we broke up. Or the reason a lot of his friends stopped calling. Thanks, I was about to say how gross it would be to catch someone else's crap. My roommates and I use butt plug as our password for the router and everything else, because the password is always buttplug. GF stormed in one day, told me she found out what a buttplug was and thought we were disgusting. Like, what the hell did you think it was? To be fair, buttplug sounds like a little dog. Battlepug, engage. She freaks like a goddess, and she has the kindest heart and smile a human being could have, but heck, one time we asked her for fun how do blue whales give birth. Her answer, and I quote, do of course they are like reverse turtles, they bury their eggs in the deepest part of the ocean. My friend and I lost consciousness because we couldn't breathe anymore. I told him don't be so daft. He told me to use real words. Once, in conversation with my GF at the time, I said something along the lines of, well, that's a moot point. Not only was she completely unfamiliar with the word moot, which isn't a big deal, but she was mad at me for using the word at all. As if I was trying to rub my knowledge of words in her face. It was an ongoing theme in our relationship. She constantly felt like I was trying to make her seem stupid. It was really stifling. Talking to her became like walking on eggshells, and I was constantly worried that I would inadvertently say something that made her feel stupid. She also would get mad at me for other weird small things, and get even more mad at me when I couldn't just magically figure out that she was upset. She'd be quiet for a while and then start yelling at me, and when I said, I'm sorry, I didn't realize anything was wrong, she would say, well, I shouldn't have to say anything, you should just know. Yeah, that relationship went nowhere. Well, she's not wrong. The word is moo. It's a moo point. You know, like a cow's opinion, it doesn't matter. When she almost got expelled from online high school. Story time. She would copy and paste questions into Google, then copy and paste the answers back into the homework. So when she went to do an English essay, she directly copied the first 3 sentences from some article. The teacher failed the assignment, then recommended expulsion. Her mother intervened and pleaded with administration not to expel her because she was such a good, hard-working student and a pregnant teen. Administration decided not to expel her if she wrote an apology letter to the teacher. Her mother wrote it. She got away with it. We were having a discussion one day, I think it was about sinkholes, and she brought up how cars were slowly crushing the earth, and supplied evidence to back up her assumption. We live in Anchorage, Alaska, and during the winter, the cars with studded tires slowly dig ruts into the road at all the intersections, causing them to be very bumpy. She said the ruts were her proof. He had a master's degree in finance, worked in a bank, we both did, but was unable to manage his own money. Example, he would complain about barely making rent, and then go buy an $800 coat. Damn, I just bought a $100 coat and thought I was a big spender. I have a friend in a similar boat. He manages retirement plans for clients, but he does not contribute anything to a retirement plan himself, and has openly told me he has no savings. I have joined just to tell you this. I'm the idiot in my relationship, and bless my husband's heart for not dumping me. While we were still dating, we were on a road trip. I notice a sign that has been changed to say some exit has been moved from 2 miles ahead to 1 mile ahead. Only, at this time, I did not know that is what it meant. I genuinely turned to my then boyfriend and asked him, did they really move the city 1 mile closer, or did it get 1 mile bigger? Oh, honey. Bless her heart. What sealed the dealies, when we were on a bus and there was a huge cumulus, fluffy towering cloud, off in the direction of the CBD, and she said, with a noticeable hint of concern in her voice, is that from a bomb? Did someone blow up the city? Poor worrisome dolt. Note, I live in Australia. We're at a relatively low threat of being randomly nuked. I know not what weapons the second Great Emu War will be fought with, but the third will be fought with sticks and stones. Not my story, but a former boss was worried that he was dating a hot, but not so smart woman, so he decided to test her. He complimented her by saying, "The wind whistles through the caverns of your mind." She thought it was the sweetest thing anyone had ever said to her. I like this insult. I was in a fight with my ex-girlfriend, who was trying to convince me that it was okay she cheated on me because it was with a woman, and being bisexual means she can have both relationships at once. I told her that bisexuality and polyamory aren't the same thing, and that she doesn't get to tell me what cheating is when she's the one skanking around. She told me to get off my Trojan horse. Not high horse, Trojan horse. My favorite so far. My parents didn't think vaccinating me was necessary, and he saw no problem with that, just that he'd have to get more vaccines if he traveled outside the country. Oh darn. I legitimately didn't know what to say. At least they homeschooled him until high school, but still, everything appears to be in order here. Her mom came in her room to show us this new way of doing math problems that she found out she was showing us, and her daughter was agreeing with everything being said and was saying it was great that she figured out a way. I was just looking at it and knowing that it was wrong. It worked with even numbers, but as soon as you went to a 3, her whole system went out the window and wouldn't work. This being factoring, I tried explaining that it wouldn't work and neither of them agreed with me, and they went off believing that they were right and I was wrong. I've made a comment on Reddit about this phenomenon before. If you ever spot two people who obviously know very little about something that you know a lot about, and they are discussing said topic, don't get involved. They will 100% of the time side with each other, saying you're wrong, and the frustration gets pretty serious. Burning violence-inducing rage. I asked her if she remembered Crystal Pepsi, and she said no, I never knew her. That was a joke, Bishop, because it kinda sounds like a stripper name. I was reading the Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi, a very famous samurai. GF at the time asks what I'm reading, and I tell her. Her response: "Was he ever on Ninja Warrior? I love that show. While you were watching Ninja Warrior, I was studying the blade. You said something like this, I would assume." He came over to my parents' house for dinner and he didn't even know what a potato was. He picked it up and looked at it quizzically like he'd never seen one before. Wasn't this a tifu? A joke that went terribly wrong? Yeah. I loved that story, haha. My friend's ex-fiancé actually believed him when he told her that eggs come from eggplants. I could not decipher his texts because of how bad his spelling and grammar was, which he claimed was because he was using voice text. I used to think, okay then stop doing that, which led me to believe he may have been lying. One day he sent me a photo whilst voice texting, and I realized he just can't spell. My mother-in-law is the same way. She can't really read that well either, which makes for super awkward game nights. The worst part is that she won't admit when she can't read a word. She'll just insert a different word in there that starts with the same letter, hoping it's the right one. It's really difficult to try to make funny jokes in Cards Against Humanity when someone can't read, much less understand. Some historically twisted joke. I was at a site in South America investigating the remains of a guy who I estimated to have lived about 6,000 years ago. He appeared to have built a huge fire near the cave entrance, trapping himself inside, at which point he likely died from smoke inhalation. I want to let you know that your brilliant pun was not wasted. I was living at my parents' house, working a $10 an hour job in my field that I studied in college, struggling to save money to move out. He would put me down for not having the means to live on my own and complain about it like a child. He would criticize me for not having the drive to make more money. I was making maybe 20k a year. He was making 0k. It took me a while to realize it, which may make me the stupid one. He didn't work, was in his 30s, and drove a car, and lived in a beach condo courtesy of his parents. Eventually I got promoted and moved out of my parents' house. He still doesn't work. We were talking about passports and I remembered reading about a new program that New York City was coming out with. NYSID, that, though it was good in the city, wouldn't necessarily be accepted in other states. She fought me tooth and nail about it, that they wouldn't possibly create an ID program that wouldn't be valid elsewhere. I even went so far as to show her the site, that it's to be a resident of New York City separately than a state ID, and she still didn't believe me. She also refused to believe that doctors had made advancements in certain fields, and fiercely argued against the idea of certain creatures having existed. She'd quote the Bible, but tell me to question my sources when I read an article from a scientific magazine or site. We aren't dating anymore.